Hello, today we are going to be talking about balancing your creativity and your business as a fashion photographer. It's really hard to find the balance between our creative brain and our business brain as photographers, but we need to master both. Do you ever feel like you're flipping from modes in your brain constantly? It can feel like you're trying to be two people. One moment you're in really great creative flow, you're directing, you're shooting, you're creating amazing imagery, and the next minute you're hunched over a laptop, sending invoices, doing admin, sending emails, or even doing taxes, and it feels like a lot. They are completely different mindsets. So if that feels familiar, then definitely hang around because this is going to be a deep dive into how you can easily manage being in two mindsets and in those two zones at once. I, for one, totally understand this struggle. On one hand, we have our very artistic sides. That's the part that gets excited about color, about texture, about composition, about storytelling, and capturing that absolutely perfect shot. But on the other hand, we have to wear the business hat. We have to think about client budgets. We have to think about contracts. We have to think about insurance. We have to do the boring but necessary stuff. In fact, this is where people start talking about left brain versus right brain. According to theory, the left brain is the more verbal, analytical, and orderly side of the brain. And the right side of the brain is the more visual, the more intuitive, the more emotive side of the brain. It's the creative part. It's like one part of you loves the spreadsheets, loves the admin, but the other part of you hates it. It wants to be in creativity, it wants to be in flow, it wants to be in intuition. It wants to live in spontaneous creativity. But from everything that I've researched, it seems like the left versus right brain is actually a bit of a myth. We can actually use both sides of our brain together way more than we realize. When I'm in my creative zone, when I'm in my flow, I'm experimenting, I'm playing, I'm going with what feels good. I'm not worrying about rules to follow. It might be as literal as me crawling around on the floor with my camera in my hand, looking for that really interesting angle, not because it's something that I know I need to do, but because it's something I feel I need to do. But when I'm in that business mode, I need to be organized. I need to be precise. I need to be really well versed on what I'm doing in that area. There is precision and logic there. And here's a personal story for you. When I was first starting out, I genuinely used to avoid the business side of things as much as I could. I would spend whole days just completely consumed by creativity, and I still feel this urge to this day. I would just live in my dream world, making mood boards, playing in Photoshop, drawing in sketchbooks, looking at books, looking at magazines. And I was loving it, but I was ignoring the emails, the contracts I inevitably needed to make. Even invoicing clients would get left behind. I was literally leaving money on the table for extended periods of time because I just didn't want to send the invoice because it was an annoying task that took me out of my creative genius, my creative zone. But then there have also been times where I've swung completely the other way, where I've gone really hardcore into businesswoman mode, where I've been like, oh, I'm the CEO, I need to be doing XYZ all the time, and I lose my creativity completely. I can spend a whole week working on my website, creating spreadsheets to determine what's going to be the best way of spending my money on a photo shoot. I can get too hung up on reworking my pricing. And in that time, I don't take a single moment to be creative, to think about imagery, to draw something, to create something, to take a photo. And the craziest bit is that when I get into that mode, either of them, whether it's hyper-focused on the creativity or hyper-focused on the admin, I end up feeling frustrated and miserable at the end of it, no matter what I do. It feels like I'm being pulled in two directions constantly, with my creativity wanting all my attention and the admin wanting all my attention. And then I suddenly go, I don't know what to do. I need to be in two places at once. How do I manage this? This was genuinely my problem constantly for years. Because the thing is, we need both sides. We need to be able to be that creative person, but we also need the business to make it work. It is the business side that makes the artist, the fashion photography career sustainable. It's what makes it a viable career. One of my favorite quotes is by the famous Andy Warhol. And I'm going to read it here so I don't get it wrong. He very famously said, "Making money is art, and working is art, and good business is the best art." I love that because it flips the script completely. It reminds us that looking after your art as a business is not selling out. It's not giving in to the big man. It's actually just another art form. It can be as creative to be in your business zone, in your CEO zone, as it can be to be in the creative flow. If Andy Warhol believes that being good at business can be as creative as painting, then surely the master is telling us something that we should all be listening to. And if that doesn't really summarize it well enough, I'm going to quote Rankin, who is a huge fashion photographer who you probably have all heard of. And he said, and again, I'm going to read it, so I quote, "At the end of the day, photography is 99% business, connections and politics, and 1% creativity." Now, I don't know if I believe the 1% creativity. I think there's a lot more creativity that goes into this. But he says it is business. And when I first heard that quote, I thought, is that true? Do I believe that truly? And as I've just said, I don't fully agree with it completely. But it's an interesting point. And I think his point is that talent enough is not going to get you where you want to go. You cannot rely on your skills to get you success as a fashion photographer. You have to do the networking, you have to do the marketing, you have to do the contracts, you have to do the invoicing. This is why I'm always banging on about the importance of pitching, of putting yourself out there, of being intentional about your portfolio shoots and having a little bit of planning and intention behind the work you do, not just letting creative flow take control of you willy-nilly constantly. When you think of any successful creative fashion photographer, they have all learned to balance the creativity with the business, I should say. When you get that balance right, it's amazing. It feels incredible, and your business will so massively take off. It is unreal. So how do we achieve that balance? I'm going to share some strategies that have actually really worked for me and hopefully help you to juggle those two areas of your life. I promise you, it is so possible to be both creative and savvy as a business owner at the same time. So before I jump into these tips, of course, it is always about what works best for you. So take what you like from this and leave what doesn't feel right. Listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, and use it. So the first one is time blocking. It is time blocking your schedule. It's using your calendar to your advantage. This is nothing new. You've probably heard of time blocking before, but if you need this as a tool, it can change your life. This is where you want to carve out dedicated time for your business and your creative tasks. I literally schedule into my calendar when I'm going to be creative and when I'm going to be working on my business. In fact, I'll let you in on a secret. I tend to actually just block in the business sections because those are the things I know I need to do, and I let the creativity flow whenever it wants to around those things. But I'm very strict with myself, and I do not allow myself to be distracted by picking up a pencil, picking up a camera, opening up Photoshop, opening up Pinterest when I have a business task that needs doing. You might have a different pattern to me. You might know that you work really well on your creativity in the morning. I am actually an afternoon creative person. I do my admin in the morning because when I wake up first thing, that's when my admin brain is really strong. It just gets stuff done and it gets it done fast. So I spend my morning most days doing things like email, invoicing, spreadsheets, calculations, anything that is not purely me using the creative part of my brain. I do that first thing in the morning. Then, once I've done all those things, I'm free to do whatever I want. I can pick up my pencils, I can go out with my camera, I can spend time planning a photo shoot, I can look through magazines, I can read books, I can do whatever is sparking my creative interest in that moment. Maybe you're different. Maybe your admin tasks are better suited for you in the day or even at night. Find what is a good time for you and use that time and block it out. Know that it is going to be a non-negotiable that you sit down and you do those tasks at that time. One really big thing that's helped me is batching similar tasks together at once. If I'm flipping between different sorts of tasks constantly, it's really hard for me to get into it, to really zone in and do it right. So I try and group all things that are similar together. For example, when I'm doing planning for my social media, I do all of that at once. When I'm planning newsletters, I do all of that at once. When I'm sending invoices, I do all of that at once. Some people like to theme their days where they have a Monday morning or a Monday which is fully focused on marketing. Other people love to do Fridays that are their admin days. Some people have whole days dedicated to creativity. Whatever works for you is fine. There's no right or wrong. There's just figuring out and paying attention to when you feel the pull to do certain things, when you feel like you've got the energy to do certain things, and honoring it. Another thing you can do is to create some kind of ritual that helps you step into a different mode. Because sometimes, no matter how well you schedule or you plan out your week in advance, you will get to the certain point in time where you need to do something, you need to switch gears, and your brain just can't do it. You cannot flip out of business mode or out of creative mode. When I find that I am struggling to switch modes, I have a ritual or I do to break the pattern. For me, that tends to be walking my dog. For you, it could be listening to your favorite music, reading a book for a minute, getting some food, going and getting a drink of water, heading out for a walk like I do. If you're trying to get into creative mode, maybe it's looking through magazines, looking at your favorite images, looking through Instagram to get some inspiration, drawing, sketching, whatever it may be. I do know of one photographer who, when they need to step into creative mode, they put on a special Camino that they wear when they want to feel like they have an alter ego, almost like they are stepping into putting on their creative cape. That's how I imagine it. They've put it on their costume, and when they have that on, they feel creative. The point is, find something that will help trigger your brain into a new mode. And the more you do it, the more your brain will go, that means we're doing this now. Same as when you brush your teeth at night. When you brush your teeth at night, your brain starts to know, oh, it's bedtime soon. For me, when I get into bed, I read a book. And the moment I start reading, I feel sleepy because my brain knows that when I read a book, I'm going to bed, therefore I sleep. Another tip is to create boundaries. They can be physical or imaginative boundaries. When you are a creative person, a fashion photographer, it is highly likely that you, like me, work from home. It also can mean that work can blur into all different times of the day. We end up working all hours. We're answering emails at midnight. We're checking our phone as soon as we wake up to answer to emails. But setting boundaries can help change the game so much. One of the really important things about balancing our creativity with our business sense is having a clear sense of avoiding burnout. We do not want to overdo it in any way, shape, or form with the admin, with the marketing, with all this creativity either, because that can lead to feeling exhausted from it all. So, for example, you might decide to set your own office hours. I typically work from 8 a.m. to about 4 p.m. most days. That is my working hours. That is when I'm really at my best and able to function the best as a creative and a business person. You might be someone who actually prefers rising later in the day and works a little bit later at night. There is no right or wrong. Also, you do not need to work 8 hours a day if that does not suit you or your body. The 9 to 5 is very old-fashioned, and we stepped into roles as creative photographers, as fashion photographers, to do something different. So set your own times, create your own office hours, and stick to them. If you really want to emphasize this to clients, you can include your office hours in your email signature so that clients know when you're likely to respond and when you're not. I also set myself a strict rule that I do not answer emails on weekends, even if I see them, even if I check my email and I see that I have a client email, unless it's absolute physically urgent, cannot wait, panic station, something is terribly going wrong, I will wait until Monday morning to answer that email. just because it sets the boundary for both myself and for my client that I am not working on weekends. I take my weekends for myself, and I really do. On the flip side, you might also want to set yourself creative times. If you find that you can sit down and feel creative and step into creativity without the business side encroaching on your time to create, to think, to imagine, to have fun with your art and your photography, then this could be a really good time to set business boundaries. So putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, moving into a different part of the house that doesn't have a computer in it, leaving your phone in a different room, and letting yourself have these times where you do not do any admin at all. One of the things that was a game changer for me, and I know this is not going to be possible for everyone, is I actually have a separate space that I now use for doing all of my creative work, even my photo shoot planning. This is a recent addition to my life, but it has been such a game changer. The room I'm in right now is my office. This is where I do all of my admin tasks, where I do most of my business. It is also where I do my editing. But whenever I want to step into a more creative zone, a free place where I have my sketchbooks, where I have my inspiration, where I have my paints and I keep my cameras, I go into a different room in my home where I've now set up a little studio. Sometimes the act of moving to a different space can be so freeing for our brains. I don't know what it is about moving into this studio space that just means that I suddenly think in a creative brain way rather than thinking about my business, but it really does. And you don't necessarily need to have a whole different room. It could just be moving to the sofa for a few hours, moving to the kitchen, going out to a coffee shop, whatever it is you need to do, changing your physical environment can really help you switch into a completely different brain mode. And the next tip is a bit more of a mindset shift, but it is but it is equally as important. Always come back to why you are doing this. You love fashion photography for a reason. You've chosen to become a fashion photographer for a reason. Remind yourself why. Maybe it's the creativity. Maybe it's the freedom. Maybe it's the storytelling that you love. It's also highly likely that you just want to make a living doing something you love. You want to live a certain lifestyle. When I'm doing a task that I think is not so fun, and I'm struggling to do it, and I'm like, oh, why am I doing this? I hate this. I don't want to do this. I go back to my why am I doing it? I am doing this because I want to be a fashion photographer. I want to live this lifestyle. I want to afford myself the freedom that this life brings me. Sending invoices, updating my website, doing the spreadsheet, all of that makes this life possible for me. When I think about those things, it helps me visualize the final outcome, which is so motivating. It turns what would be a boring task into a stepping stone to pure creative, life fulfilling moments. If you ever find yourself in a position where you've spent way too long in business mode and not enough time into creative mode, recognize that and schedule some really clear time to allow yourself to be creative, to imagine, to dream, to shoot, to do whatever you want with no pressure. That is equally as important as the business side of things. Without your creativity, without taking the time to allow yourself to daydream, to create, without any boundaries, you cannot have a successful business. They are equally as important. So allow yourself that time. Allow yourself to indulge in being creative. On the flip side, though, if you've been avoiding doing all of the business tasks for too long, I'm going to call you out as well. When those tasks pile up, they can be as anxiety-inducing as not creating in the first place. You'll always have a little voice in the back of your head when you're doing your fun creativity. I need to be doing this. I've not done this. I've not sent that invoice. I've not done that contract. That will block you creatively way more than anything else will. So make sure you schedule in those things as well. Even if it's as little as setting a timer for 20 minutes and telling yourself, I'm going to spend 20 minutes replying to emails and sending invoices, and then I can go back to my fun stuff. You will feel so much better as a result. And then another thing I want to say is to stop labeling yourself. I hear so many creative fashion photographers just say, oh, I'm just not a business person. I'm not good at the business stuff. I'm not good at the admin. I'm not really good at being organized. That's not true. You are not those things. Instead of that, try and tell yourself, literally speak it out loud, I am a creative and a business owner. I can be both. Remember how I said at the beginning that our brain works as a whole? It does. It's not two separate things. You are more than capable of delivering on both sides, of being incredibly creative and incredibly empowering as a business professional. Maybe the business stuff doesn't come naturally at first, but the more you work at it, the more you practice it, the more you learn, it will get easier and easier. And give yourself some grace. It's okay if some days it doesn't work out, if some days you're better at it than others. No one's going to be chasing you down or telling you off. It's totally fine. Just come back to it the next day and keep working at it. It's all about ebb and flow, and we just embrace it. Balancing creativity and business is not easy. It's taken me years, and I'm still always working at it. But it is totally doable and is very rewarding when you can get it right. Remember that you're essentially harnessing two different superpowers, your imagination and your strategy. When you are able to pair the two together, your creativity and your strategy in your business side of things, that is when you become unstoppable. You become a true entrepreneur who is making creative work for a living and thriving off of it. I really hope you found this helpful. To summarize the things that I want you to take away and do moving forward: set time block schedules, batch together your business tasks, create rituals to help you switch gears, set clear boundaries, remember your why, and embrace being both an artist and an entrepreneur. If you've enjoyed this, and I really hope you have, feel free to share it with a friend, whether they're a fashion photographer or just an artist and creative professional, or a business owner who's wanting to be more creative. You can also join my email list where I share weekly tips on fashion photography and the business side of things. And I really hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you very soon.